he whispered, brushing a strand of her hair from her face. Before she could respond, he leaned in and their lips met. The kiss was tender but filled with an undeniable passion. Adaora sat by the window, staring out at the busy street below her office. It was lunchtime, but she had no appetite. Life had become predictable, like a song stuck on repeat. Wake up, rush to work, deal with rude clients at the bank, go home, cook dinner, and sleep. Her husband, Emeka, was not helping. He was not a bad man, but he was not the loving partner she had once fell in love with. He spent most evenings glued to the TV, barely noticing her. Adaora felt invisible, like a shadow in her own home. One day, her friends at work suggested something new. Ada, why don't you join a gym? You are always complaining about feeling tired and stressed, her colleague Shoma said, sipping on a smoothie. At first, Adaora laughed. She wasn't the kind of person who went to gyms. But that night, laying awake in bed, while Emeka snored beside her, she decided she needed a change. Maybe the gym could be the escape she desperately needed. The next morning, she signed up at Fit Zone Gym, the most popular fitness center in town. Adaora walked into Fit Zone Gym the following evening, feeling a little nervous. The smell of sweat and disinfectant filled the air, and the sound of weights clinking and upbeat music added to her anxiety. She wasn't sure she belonged here. A young receptionist named Tolu greeted her with a big smile and handed her a membership card. Welcome to Fitness Zone. You are going to love it here, Tolu said cheerfully. Adaora smiled back, unsure if she would. As she stood awkwardly near the treadmill session, wondering where to begin, a deep, smooth voice startled her. First time here, she turned and found herself looking at a tall, muscular man with a warm smile. He wore a sleeveless shirt that revealed his toned arms, and his eyes sparkled with confidence. I'm Kunle, the gym instructor, he said, extending a hand. Adaora shook it, feeling a bit flustered. Yes, first time, she replied shyly. Kunle chuckled. Don't worry, I will take care of you. Let's start with something light. His charm was undeniable, and for the first time in months, Adaora felt a spark of excitement. Kunle showed Adaora around the gym, explaining how to use the equipment. Don't push yourself too hard on the first day, he advised, setting the treadmill to a gentle pace. As she walked, Kunle stood beside her, asking questions about her job and her interests. His friendly demeanor quickly put her at ease. Adaora found herself laughing at his jokes and forgetting her earlier nervousness. You are doing great, he said, his encouraging words making her feel accomplished. Over the next week, Adaora started looking forward to her gym sessions. Kunle always greeted her with a smile and guided her through her workouts. She even began making small progress, feeling stronger and more confident with each visit. But something else was happening. Adaora noticed how her heart fluttered whenever Kunle was nearby. She told herself it was harmless. He was just being friendly, yet, but deep down, she knew she hadn't felt this way in a long time, and it both excited and scared her. Within a month, Adaora's life felt different. She had a glow her friends could not ignore. Ada, what's your secret? You look so refreshed these days, Shoma teased during their lunch break. Adaora laughed, brushing it off. It's gym, she said, though she knew it wasn't just the workout. Kunle's attention made her feel alive. At the gym, he always seemed to have time for her, whether it was adjusting her posture during squats or joking about her attempts at push-ups. His confidence was infectious, and Adaora found herself smiling more often, even at work. At home, however, things were the same. Emeka barely noticed her transformation. One evening, after Adaora returned from the gym, she wore a new dress she had bought impulsively that afternoon. "How do I look?" she asked her husband, spinning playfully in the living room. He glanced up briefly from his football match and muttered, "You are fine." Disappointed, Adaora went to bed, feeling a purge of loneliness. But the next day at the gym, Kunle noticed her outfit immediately. "Wow, someone is looking sharp today," he said, flashing her that signature smile. Adaora blushed, wondering why Kunle saw what her husband did not. So one evening, after an intense workout, Kunle handed Adaora a bottle of water. "You have been doing great, Ada. You deserve a treat," he said with a grin. "How about dinner?" "Just a casual thing. Some gym members and I are grabbing food tomorrow night. You should come." Adaora hesitated. She had not gone out socially in ages, especially not without Emeka. But Kunle's easygoing manner made it hard to say no. "Okay, I will think about it," she said, smiling shyly. The next evening, Adaora found herself nervously dressing for the outing. "I'll be back early," she told Emeka, who barely acknowledged her as he scrolled through his phone. At the restaurant, Kunle and a few gym members welcomed her warmly. The group laughed and shared stories, but Adaora could not help noticing how Kunle's attention often lingered on her. It made her feel seen, something she hadn't felt in years. As the night ended, Kunle walked her to her car. "I'm glad you came," he said softly. For a moment, the air between them felt charged, but Adaora quickly thanked him and drove home, her heart racing. Over the next few weeks, Adaora and Kunle grew closer. Their conversation during our gym sessions shifted from fitness advice to personal stories. Kunle had a way of making Adaora feel comfortable, and she began opening up about her life. "Sometimes I feel like I'm just existing," she admitted one evening while stretching after her workout. Kunle leaned against the wall, watching her thoughtfully. "You are more than that, Ada. You just need someone to remind you of how special you are," he said softly. His words lingered in her mind long after she left the gym. At home, things with Emeka continued to deteriorate. One evening, Adaora cooked his favorite meal, hoping to spark a conversation, but he barely acknowledged her effort. Frustrated and hurt, she went to bed early, clutching her phone and scrolling through pictures from the gym's recent events. Her eyes lingered on a group photo where Kunle's arm rested lightly on her shoulder. A part of her knew she was treading dangerous waters, but another part did not care. Kunle made her feel alive, something she hadn't felt in years. One evening, after her usual workout, Kunle asked Adaora to stay back a little longer. "I want to show you a different stretchy techniques. It will help with the soreness in your back," he said. The gym was quieter than usual, with most people gone for the day. As Kunle guided her movements, his hands slightly brushing against her, Adaora felt her heart raising. She could sense the tension between them, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "Kunle, I think I should go," Adaora suddenly said, stammering. pulling away. He stepped back, respecting her space, but looking into her eyes with a smile that hinted at something more. Of course, I don't mean to make you uncomfortable, he said, his voice calm. As Adaora left the gym, her thoughts were a whirlwind. She knew a line had been crossed, even if nothing explicit had happened yet. That night, she lay awake, torn between guilt and a longing for the attention Kunle gave her. She wasn't ready to admit it, but something was changing and it scared her. It was a rainy evening and Adaora arrived at the gym, feeling unusually low. She had just had a heated argument with Emeka over his constant indifference. Kunle noticed the sadness in her eyes immediately. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Adaora hesitated, then she poured out her frustration about her marriage and loneliness and how unseen she felt. Kunle listened intensely, his gaze never leaving her face. "You deserve to be loved, Ada," he said softly. "Truly loved." The air between them grew heavy with unspoken emotions. As they stood alone in the gym's empty lounge, Kunle stepped closer. "You are incredible, Ada, and you don't even see it," he whispered, brushing a strand of her hair from her face. Before she could respond, he leaned in and their lips met. The kiss was tender but filled with an undeniable passion. Adora's heart raced as she gave in to the moment, forgetting everything else. When they finally pulled away, she stared at him, her mind spinning. "Kunle, we shouldn't," she stammered. But even as she said the words, she knew she wanted more. A week later, the inevitable happened. Kunle invited Adaora to his apartment under the guise of helping her with a personal workout plan. She hesitated but eventually agreed, convincing herself it was harmless. His apartment was cozy and smelled of his cologne, a scent she had come to associate with comfort. As they sat on the couch, Kunle reached out and held her hand. "Ada, I can't stop thinking about you," he admitted. His honesty disarmed her. She felt the same but was too scared to say it out loud. One thing led to another and their connection became physical. Kunle kissed her deeply, his hands exploring her body as she surrendered to the moment. They moved to his bedroom where Adaora felt a passion she had never experienced in years. It was raw, intense, and filled with emotions she could not control. For the first time in a long time, she felt desired and alive. But as they lay together afterward, reality crept in. Adaora stared at the ceiling, her mind swelling with guilt and fear. What had she done? Adaora woke up the next morning in Kunle's bed, her heart pounding with a mix of emotions. Sunlight streamed through the curtains as she sat up, careful not to wake Kunle, who was still sleeping beside her. Guilt washed over her like a tidal wave. She had crossed a line she never thought she would. The memory of their passionate nights replayed in her mind, leaving her torn between regret and the intoxicating feeling of being wanted. As she got dressed quietly, Kunle stirred. "Leaving so soon?" he asked, his voice deep and groggy. "I need to go," Adaora replied softly, avoiding his gaze. Kunle reached out and gently grabbed her hand. "Ada, don't overthink this," he said. "What happened between us felt right, didn't it?" His words stirred something in her, but the weight of her actions was too heavy. "I don't know, Kunle. I don't know anything right now," she said, pulling away. As she drove home, Tears filled her eyes. She had betrayed her husband, her vows, and even herself. But amidst the guilt, a small part of her could not deny that Kunle had awakened something she thought was dead. Adaora returned home to find Emeka on the couch, scrolling through his phone as usual. He barely looked up when she walked in, which only deepened her frustration and guilt. "Where were you?" he asked casually, not even waiting for her answer. "I was out with some friends," she replied, her voice shaky but firm. Emeka nodded, his attention already back on his phone. Adaora felt a mix of relief and anger. He did not even care enough to ask further questions. At the gym, however, things were different. Kunle's energy was magnetic, and his presence made her feel alive. Their affair deepened as they began meeting in secret, stealing moments of passion whenever they could. Kunle showered her with attention, sending flirty text messages throughout the day and making her laugh during their workout. But Adaora's double life was taking its toll. She started avoiding her friends and family, afraid they would notice the change in her. But deep down, she knew she could not continue living this way. But the pull of Kunle was too strong to resist.